Hi guys, we are going to move on and look at something called completing the square. Completing the square is a skill that we use to write quadratics in a different form. Now, so we've got it, we're going to give you a quick definition of a quadratic. So it's an expression which includes a square term. You will hear myself and Mr. McIntyre say the word quadratics quite a lot over the next few lessons, so make sure that you are happy with the definition itself. So underline quadratics, highlight it, and that refers to this definition up here. We'll use this skill, completing the square, and primarily in the topic quadratics, which we'll look to cover later on in the course. So let's have a look at what completing the square form looks like. It's good to be familiar with how it's meant to look before we actually go ahead and find out how to do it. We've got a trinomial here, x squared plus 8x plus 18. That's something that we should be familiar with now. We know it's a trinomial because it's got 3 terms. We also know it's a quadratic because we've got this x squared term. Completing the square form looks like this. So we've got x plus a number, in this case 4, and a bracket, all squared, plus 2. There's a couple of previous topics that are going to come into this to help you understand how we get from the trinomial or into the completed squared form. If we look at x plus 4 squared, if you think back to when you did breaking brackets and we used FOIL, x plus 4 squared would look like x plus 4 and x plus 4. The plus 2 we'll put on the end. If I was to break out those brackets, do it quickly because we've covered it already in the course, it would look like x squared plus 8x plus 16, and then that plus 2 goes on at the end. If we tidy that up, then it will look like our original trinomial. And what we're looking to do over the course of these lessons is learn how to get it into this form. That is the aim of the game. We want to be able to transfer a trinomial into this completed square form. Now, in tests and in exams, the giveaway or the hint that a question that will give you as to completing out the completing the square form or skill is it will say to you, put an expression into the form. I've used x plus p squared plus q. Sometimes it will say x plus a squared plus b. The thing that will always be constant is it will be an x. However, these 2 letters here can sometimes change about. So please be mindful of that. Okay, there's 4 steps to complete this process. Number 1, separate the last term. Number 2, probably the biggest one, remove the square, half the number, and remove the letter. Surround in brackets and square it. Step 3, subtract the square of the number in the brackets. We'll talk about that when we come to the examples. And then lastly, for number 4, simplify. Let's put this into practice then. We've got some examples. It says write the following expressions in the form x plus p squared plus q. Instantly for me, that is a trigger in my brain that says, okay, you are doing completing the square. As soon as I see that phrase, as soon as I see write the following expressions in the form, that triggers me to instantly go to completing the square. Let's follow our steps. Step 1 was separate the last term. So I'm going to draw a line and separate the last term from the first two terms. Step 2 was drop the square. So x squared, if I drop the square, just becomes x. Half the number, so it's positive 8. Half of positive 8 is positive 4. And drop the letter, so that x doesn't come down. Then we surround and then square. Keep that separated third term and include that at the end. So that's me completed step 2. I have dropped the square, I have half the number, I've got rid of the letter, surrounded in brackets, squared. Step 3 was square the number inside of the bracket and subtract it. So first of all, before I do that, I'm going to write out what I've got. 4 squared, we know squared is multiplying by itself. 4 squared is 16, so I'm going to subtract 16 on the right hand side. Why do we do that? If you think back to the first part of this lesson, when we expand the x plus 4 squared, we would get a plus 16. We need to negate that, so we take away 16. And step 4 is simplify, tidy it up. So I'm left with x plus 4 squared. The simplifying part comes in with this over here on the right hand side. Plus 3 subtract 16 is going to give me subtract 13 or negative 13. And that is me now put the original expression into completed square form. I've got x plus a number, all squared, add or subtract another number. And that is me completed the process. Okay, let's look at example 2 then. This time I have got x squared plus 6x plus 10. And I'm always going to be following the exact same process. So let's go. Step 1 was separate the last term. Step 2, drop the squared, so that x squared becomes x. Half the number, so it's plus 6x. Half of plus 6 is plus 3. And then drop the letter, so that x doesn't come down. Surround in brackets and square it. Don't forget to add in the separate third term. That's really important. Step 3 was square the number inside the bracket and subtract it. So always make sure you write out what you've got first before completing that part. 3 squared is 9, so I'm going to subtract 9. And then step 4, as always, is simplify. Tidy it up. So we've got x plus 3, all squared, 10 take away 9, positive 1. Okay, let's throw some negatives into the mix then. Negative numbers will appear in completing the square, just like they appear all the way through the National 5 course. So it is very, very handy if you are nice and comfortable with them. This time for number 3, I have got t squared, subtract 4t, subtract 6. I'm not going to change anything about the process itself. So as always, I'm going to start by separating the last term. And then I'll move on to step 2. So I'm going to drop the square, even though it's t and not x now, it's not going to change anything. So drop the square is going to leave me with t. Half the number, so it's negative 4t. Half of negative 4 is negative 2. So be mindful of the sign that is in front of the number and drop the letter. So that t beside the 4t goes away. Surround and then square. Don't forget to add in the separate third term as well. So that's step 2 complete. Step 3, as we know, write out what you've got first. So t subtract 2 all squared, and my third term. Negative 2 squared, remember that a negative multiplied by a negative gives you a positive answer, so that's 4. So we've got to subtract 4. And then step 4, simplify, tidy it up. So we've got t subtract 2 all squared. Negative numbers, so be careful. Negative 6 subtract 4, so it's going to go further down. If it was temperature, it's going to become negative 10. So my final answer, if I go from t squared, subtract 4t, subtract 6 in completed square form, is going to look like t minus 2 all squared, subtract 10. And number 4, this time we have got x squared subtract 2x plus 5. And again, if this was a separate question, the giveaway for this, just to remind everybody, is this phrase. Write the following expression in the form x plus p all squared plus q. So I know instantly that it's completed square form that I'm looking for. So let's go ahead and step 1, separate our third term. Step 2, drop the square. So the x squared just becomes x. Half the number, negative 2 again, so be careful with your negative numbers. Half of negative 2 is negative 1. And then drop the letter. So this x that's beside the negative 2 disappears. Surround with your brackets and square. Then add in that separate third term. Step 3, again, write out what you've got so far. X minus 1 squared plus 5. We want to square the number inside of the bracket. So negative 1 squared, negative 1 multiplied by negative 1 is 1. And we want to subtract that. So subtract 1. And then step 4 is simplify. So we've got x minus 1 all squared. 5 take away 1 is positive 4. So that's us there. And that is us completed the square again. A good way to check that you're doing these correctly, or if you've completed the square in the correct way, is if we go up to the top here and we just expand out what we've got as an answer. So we've got x minus 1 squared plus 4. So that's going to become x minus 1 x minus 1 plus 4. Use FOIL. So use our FOIL to expand the brackets. And then include our wee separate term at the end. And then if we simplify it, if you've completed the square correctly, then you will end up with the exact same expression that you started with. So that's a good way to check your work, just to make sure that you're doing the process correctly. Okay, that's all from me just now. If you have got any questions, as always, please do not hesitate to get in contact with us. This is Mr. Gillen, Signing off. Speak to you all soon.